Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Chari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Jaya Gopi Jana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Jai Vishwam Subhadra. AC Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Vishwam Subhadra Jai Astadara Satta Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada ki Gaur Premanande. What verse?
57 to 61.
All right. I know that. You had 57 on the board?
61.
61. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, Chapter 25, The Characteristics of King Puranjana. Text 57 through 61. Kvachchitcha shochitim jayam.
Kvachchitcha shochitim jayam.
Anu shochati dinavat.
Anu shochati dinavat.
Anu hrishyati hrisyantyam.
Anu hrishyati hrisyantyam.
Muditam anumodate.
Muditam anumodate.
Kvachchitcha shochitim jayam.
Kvachchitcha shochitim jayam.
Anu shochati dinavat.
Anu shochati dinavat.
Anu hrishyati hrisyantyam.
Anu hrishyati hrisyantyam.
Muditam anumodate.
Muditam anumodate.
Kvachchitcha shochitim jayam.
Kvachchitcha shochitim jayam.
Anu shochati dinavat.
Anu shochati dinavat.
Anu hrishyati hrisyantyam.
Anu hrishyati hrisyantyam.
Muditam anumodate.
Muditam anumodate.
Kvachchitcha shochitim jayam.
Kvachchitcha shochitim jayam.
Anusochati dinavat.
Anu shochati dinavat.
Hrishyati hrisyantyam.
Anu hrishyati hrisyantyam.
Muditam anumodate.
Muditam anumodate.
Kvachchitcha shochitim jayam.
Kvachchitcha shochitim jayam.
Anusochati dinavat.
Anu shochati dinavat.
Anuvishyati Vishyantam.
Anuvishyati Vishyantam.
Muditam Anumodate.
Muditam Anumodate. Vachitcha Shutatim Jayam. Anushochati Dinavat. Anuvishyati Vishyantyam. Muditam Anumodate.
Vaishnavis.
Vachitcha Shutatim Jayam. Anushochati Dinavat. Anuvishyati Vishyantyam. Muditam Anumodate. Vachitcha Shutatim Jayam. Anushachati Dinavat. Anuvishyati Vishyantyam. Muditam Anumodate.
Kvachchit.
Kvachchit.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Pibancham.
Pibancham.
While drinking.
While drinking.
Pibati.
Pibati.
He drank.
He drank.
Madiram.
Madiram.
Liquor.
Liquor.
Madavitvala.
Madhavitvala.
Being intoxicated.
Being intoxicated.
Ashnantyam.
Ashnantyam.
While she was eating.
While she was eating.
Kvachit.
Kvachit.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Ashnati.
Ashnati.
He ate.
He ate.
Jaksatyam.
Dakshatyam.
While she was chewing.
While she was chewing.
Saha.
Saha.
With her.
With her.
Jakshati.
Jakshati.
He chewed.
He chewed.
Kvachit.
Kvachit.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Gayati.
Gayati.
He used to sing.
He used to sing.
Gayantyam.
Gayantyam.
While his wife was singing.
While his wife was singing.
Rudatyam.
Rudatyam.
And the wife was crying.
And the wife was crying.
Rudati.
Rudati.
He also cried.
He also cried.
Kvachit.
Kvachit.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Kvachit.
Kvachit.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Asantyam.
Asantyam.
While she was laughing.
While she was laughing.
Asati.
Asati.
He also laughed.
He also laughed.
Jalpantyam.
Jalpantyam.
While she was talking loosely.
While she was talking loosely.
Anu.
Anu.
Following her.
Following her.
Jalpati.
Jalpati.
He also talked loosely.
He also talked loosely.
Kvachit.
Kvachit.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Tavati.
Davati.
He also used to walk.
He also used to walk.
Davantyam.
Davantyam.
When she was walking.
When she was walking.
Tishkantyam.
Tishkantyam.
While she was standing silently.
While she was standing silently.
Anu.
Anu.
Following her.
Following her.
Tishtati.
Tishtati.
He used to stand.
He used to stand.
Anu.
Anu.
Following her.
Following her.
Shete.
Shete.
He used to lie down.
He used to lie down.
Sayanayam.
Sayanayam.
While she was lying on the bed.
While she was lying on the bed.
Anu.
Anu.
Following her.
Following her.
Aste.
Aste.
He also used to sit.
He also used to sit.
Kvachit.
Kvachit.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Asatim.
Asatim.
While she was sitting.
While she was sitting.
Kvachit.
Kvachit.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Shrinoti.
Shrinoti.
He used to hear.
He used to hear.
Shrinvantyam.
Shrinvantyam.
While she was engaged in hearing.
While she was engaged in hearing.
Pashyantyam.
Pashyantyam.
While she was seeing something.
While she was seeing something.
Anu.
Anu.
Following her.
Following her.
Pashyati.
Pashyati.
He also used to see.
He also used to see.
Kvachit.
Kvachit.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Jigrati.
Jigrati.
He used to smell.
He used to smell.
Jigrantyam.
Jigrantyam.
While his wife was smelling.
While his wife was smelling.
Prasantyam.
Prasantyam.
While the wife was touching.
While the wife was touching.
Prishyati.
Prishyati.
He was also touching.
He was also touching.
Kvachit.
Kvachit.
At that time.
At that time.
Kvachit cha.
Kvachit cha.
Sometimes also.
Sometimes also.
Shochati.
Shochati.
When she was lamenting.
When she was lamenting.
Jayam.
Jayam.
His wife.
His wife.
Anu.
Anu.
Following her.
Following her.
Shochati.
Shochati.
He was also lamenting.
He was also lamenting.
Dinavat,
Dinavat,
like a poor man.
like a poor man.
Anu,
Anu,
following her.
following her.
Hrishyati,
Krishyati,
he used to enjoy.
he used to enjoy.
Hrishyanthyam,
Krishnayam,
while she was feeling enjoyment.
while she was feeling enjoyment.
Muditam,
Muditam,
when she was satisfied.
she was satisfied.
Anu,
Anu,
following her.
following her.
Modate,
Modate,
he felt satisfaction.
he felt satisfaction.
Translation. Sure, you're wondering what is this all about? It's all about the ideal relationship. When the queen drank liquor, King Puranjana also engaged in drinking. When the queen dined, he used to dine with her. And when she chewed, King Puranjana used to chew along with her. When the queen sang, he also sang. Similarly, when the queen cried, he also cried. And when the queen laughed, he also laughed. When the queen talked loosely, he also talked loosely. And when the queen walked, the king walked behind her. When the queen would stand still, the king would also stand still. And when the queen would lie down in bed, he would also follow and lie down with her. When the queen sat, he would also sit. And when the queen heard something, he would follow her to hear the same thing. When the queen saw something, the king would also look at it. And when the queen smelled something, the king would follow her to smell the same thing. When the queen touched something, the king would also touch it. And when the dear queen was lamenting, the poor king also had to follow her in lamentation. In the same way, when the queen felt enjoyment, he also enjoyed. And when the queen was satisfied, the king also felt satisfaction. Purport. The mind is the place where the self is situated. And the mind is conducted by the intelligence. The living entity, situated within the heart, follows the intelligence. The intelligence is herein depicted as the queen. And the soul, under mental control, follows the material intelligence just as the king follows his wife. The conclusion is that material intelligence is the cause of bondage for the living entity. The point is that one has to take to spiritual intelligence to come out of this entanglement. In the life of Maharaja Ambarisha, we find that the great Maharaja first engaged his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna. In this way, his intelligence became purified. Maharaja Ambarisha also used his other senses in the service of the Lord. He engaged his eyes in seeing the deity in the temple, nicely decorated with flowers. He engaged his sense of smell by smelling the flowers. And he engaged his legs by walking to the temple. His hands were engaged in cleansing the temple. And his ears were engaged in hearing about Krishna. His tongue was engaged in two ways, in speaking about Krishna and in tasting prasad offered to the deity. Materialistic persons who are under the full control of material intelligence cannot perform all these activities. Thus, consciously or unconsciously, they become entangled by the dictations of material intelligence. This fact is summarized in the following verse. Om Gana Chimanandasya Jai Shri Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We are trying to establish a community here for purifying intelligence. As you heard in the purport, materialistic intelligence is the cause of bondage for the living entity. And we have to take to spiritual intelligence to come out of it. Material entanglement. So how do we develop spiritual intelligence? The whole process of bhakti yoga is meant to cleanse your intelligence so that it can actually help you Material life means that you're being victimized by your intelligence. The intelligence should rule the mind, but because people cannot control their mind and senses, the intelligence becomes submerged within the mind. So you have no discrimination. You just bounce from one external stimulation to another external stimulation and call that yourself and your mission. To revive the kind of spiritual intelligence necessary for going back to Godhead is the real purpose of human life. You may recall in Bhagavad Gita that Krishna said, higher than the sense objects are the senses. Indriyani prana. Higher than the senses is the mind. And higher than the mind is the intelligence. You may remember how the intelligence is the next door neighbor, so to speak, to the spirit soul. Of course, there's never any connection between matter and spirit, as the Vedas say, asangohayam purusha. Any connection that you seem to see between matter and spirit is imagination. There's an imaginary connection. And that imaginary connection is accomplished by the false ego. The imaginary junction between matter and spirit. The dreamy junction. So, if we can purify our intelligence, it will rise above the mind and the senses and give proper direction. Just like in the life of Maharaja Ambarisha. He engaged all his senses in the service of Krishna. And therefore, he had the necessary intelligence to make his life a success. So this is the kind of intelligence we want. But we have to work at it. Developing spiritual intelligence is the real purpose of human life. That's our real career, our real occupation. So all the aspects of the bhakti system are meant to achieve this goal. Therefore, sometimes you can use the terms bhakti yoga and buddhi yoga interchangeably. You'll see that in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna gives intelligence. Real intelligence comes directly from Krishna, through Bhagavad Gita, through the Paramatma, through the super soul in the heart, through the parampara, through the disciple succession. Buddhi yoga means the yoga of spiritual intelligence. How your intelligence can be used for taking you back to Krishna. And it is a fact that this life is very short. Although in Maya we think we have so much time, right? I'll do this and I'll do that. I'll go through this phase and then that phase. And then many, many years, it feels like many centuries from now, I'll give up this body. But no. The time moves so quickly. You may recall how I asked my mother, now that she's around 90, I asked her, what's your topmost realization of your 90 years? And she told me, it all passed so quickly. That's hard for you to understand, because it seems like you have so much time in your hands. But that is the covering of Maya, as Lord Kapila points out in the third canto of Bhagavatam. He gives the example of clouds in the sky. He says that just like clouds in the sky can't understand the potency of the wind, which at any moment can just blow the clouds out of the sky. Sudden gust and the clouds are gone. But the clouds don't, so to speak, understand that. They're just existing and being in the blue sky, the gray sky. The clouds are just hanging in there, thinking, oh, we'll be around for quite some time. And then one sudden gust of wind, and the clouds are dissipated. So Lord Kapil Dev gives that example. That just as the clouds in the sky are unaware of the potency of the wind to dissipate them, similarly, the conditioned soul is unaware of the potency of the time factor. So we have to think about that. And not just say it. Am I really unaware of the time factor? How am I living my life oblivious to the movements of time? Spiritual intelligence allows you to understand and perceive how living entities are caught in the grips of time. And with spiritual intelligence, you shape your life accordingly, as I was explaining last night. Lifestyle engineering. How to engineer your life to achieve the maximum success, the ultimate goal. That requires Buddhi Yoga, the yoga of spiritual intelligence. So this bhakti process gives us brains. We cannot claim to have intelligence outside of devotional service to Krishna. How can we be said to be intelligent if we are neglecting what is the prime mission of human life? So we're working hard to give people real brains. This is the brain-giving movement. It's not easy because people think what we're offering is optional or something exotic as compared to the main fare, the main menu. But no, we are giving the main substance of life. So we need to understand that with our intelligence. Then, as we were explaining last night, we can help to create a wisdom culture populated by genuinely wise persons. We need those who will set the example, how to live a wise life. People can't understand it without seeing an example. Even they read the books, of course, which is glorious. But they need to see how persons are living according to the books. Otherwise they'll think, oh, the books are very nice, but who can live like that? So we have so much work to do. And how can we do all these monumental tasks without purified intelligence? What you're reading about in this verse, so graphically, is a description of the king. In other words, the spirit soul surrendering to material intelligence, the wife. When the queen drank liquor, King Puranjana also drank. When she dined, he dined. When she chewed, he chewed. When she sang, he sang. Very obedient. When material intelligence enslaves you like that, what are your options? Your whole life becomes caught up in chasing material happiness and fighting off material distress and thinking that's the purpose of life. So we have such a great task with us and ahead of us to demonstrate how bhakti is esoteric and exoteric. It's internal and it's also external. There are great secrets of bhakti. Krishna's loving affairs. How Krishna is inviting all conditioned souls to come back to him and engage in loving affairs. So yes, bhakti is secretive. We don't go around talking about Krishna's intimate activities in general public. At the same time, bhakti is also easily accessible and easily understood in terms of what is the goal of your life? What is your identity? What are the mistakes you're making in life? So this is the glorious nature of the bhakti science. It's both, it has confidential aspects and it has very public aspects. The last thing that people would expect is that the love and relationships they yearn for so desperately are contained perfectly in Krishna and demonstrated perfectly by Krishna, his most trusted devotees. When our intelligence is purified sufficiently, then we can start to understand the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. That is the ultimate goal of yoga, as demonstrated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna himself, as you know, taking the role of a devotee of Krishna, to demonstrate the highest intensity of bhakti. And what is the highest intensity of bhakti? Love of Krishna and separation. Even more intense than meeting with Krishna. You might think, oh, if I could only meet with Krishna, then my life, my miserable life would have some purpose. If I could only meet with Krishna. But as followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we're feeling separation from Krishna. And that is actually more intense than meeting with Krishna. You see, in meeting Krishna, there's no sense of anticipation, the Acharyas explain. But in love of Krishna and separation, there's that sense of anticipation, that hankering. Oh, when will I meet with Krishna? That anticipation, that hankering, is what makes love of Krishna and separation unique and even more intense than meeting with Krishna. So that's why, as I often explain, you hear about the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. Hey Radhe Braja Devike, Chalalite, Hey Nanda Suna. Where are you, Queen of Vrindavan? Radharani, where are you? Krishna, where are you? Are you on the Govardhan Hill? Are you on the bank of Jamuna? Where are you? They're demonstrating. 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan are demonstrating the peak of bhakti, which is beyond even meeting with Krishna. So Lord Chaitanya taught his followers how to always be absorbed in feeling separation from Krishna as the peak potential of bhakti. And when you read Chaitanya Charitamrita, you find out how Lord Chaitanya is searching for Krishna here and there. Suddenly Krishna appears and then disappears. The last 12 years of Lord Chaitanya's appearance in this world were spent with intimate associates relishing separation from Krishna, which seems to be agony worse than death, but it's actually ecstatic love. Our service opportunities are a chance to connect with Krishna and feel his separation. So it's good that we think, oh, if Krishna were only here, if only I could have more contact with Krishna. That's good. That's not an ordinary sentiment. Similarly, separation from the spiritual master, separation from devotees, that's good when those feelings are there. This is the mystery of bhakti, love in separation. It runs contradictory to our material conclusions. Our material conclusions are that meeting the beloved is the best. We don't want separation from what is dear to us. Although that's one of the prominent symptoms of Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga means separation from what is dear to you and always meeting up with what is problematic for you. That's Kali Yuga. So we have this fear of separation because material separation characterizes Kali Yuga. You can't stay connected to what is materially near and dear to us. So therefore we have this negative conception of separation that we drag into spiritual affairs. Krishna himself says that he left his dearest devotees in the forest just so they would have a chance to experience separation from him, because separation from him is the most absorbing bhakti experience. But we can't understand that. I just want to be with Krishna. We should feel separation from devotees. But it's not that we stay away from devotees and say, I want to feel separation. No. We take as much advantage of association with devotees as we can. We want our life chock full of association with devotees. Even when sometimes it seems inconvenient. And it happens to everyone. Young devotee, old devotee. A devotee can rub you the wrong way or not understand you or not appreciate your service efforts or misunderstand your service efforts. That's the way it is in a society. There's misunderstanding, especially in this Kali Yuga. That's one of the symptoms of Kali Yuga. Again, friction in social dealings. And that also can sometimes manifest in the association of devotees. But we're so focused on the benefits of associating with devotees that we tolerate any inconsistencies, any inadequacies, any disturbances. Although they may seem so powerful at the time, they do fade away into the background of devotional service. So we focus on the advantages of devotee association. As Lord Kapila says, Satam Prasangam Amavirya Sangha, talks about Krishna becoming especially potent and sweet in the association of devotees. So what is our life without tasting the sweetness and the potency of hearing about Krishna? So we need devotees for that. So we can serve Krishna's senses in the association of each other. The inconsistencies and inconveniences come because materially we're all different. Our bodies and minds are different. But those are secondary and tertiary characteristics, as I was explaining last night. Real unity is only possible on the primary platform, the spiritual platform. The secondary and tertiary platforms of mind and body, they don't provide real unity. They just give the illusion of togetherness. It's mode of passion knowledge, Rajaguna. All the bodies of one type, all the minds of one type should gather together. But again and again you see, Rajaguna, passion, sooner or later leads to distress. It's moha, illusion. So how can people actually be benefited? But it looks like it's going to be of benefit. Just like a mirage. Looks like it's promising water. So you'll see people get more and more angry in terms of the bodily conception of life, thinking that by increasing their bodily identification with their particular tribe, that will lead to peace and progress. All over the world, they're going for this same moha, the same illusion again. The same illusion that brought about so many wars. They're getting back into. It's a mode of passion. Their knowledge is not on a solid foundation. It's moha, it's illusion. Remember yesterday we talked about moha, which is illusion based on the bodily conception of life. And in that moha, in that illusion, you establish networks, family networks, neighborhood networks, society networks, patriotic networks, globalistic networks. And then the moha, the illusion, leads to maha-moha, super illusion. You start feverishly acting within those networks, trading and exchanging illusion. I've got some illusion for you, you've got some illusion for me. So you create these vast networks of society, friendship, romance, patriotism, globalism, nationalism, and you vigorously and energetically act in those networks, which simply lead to distress and disaster. So we want to offer a different way of life, and we're not ashamed of that. We're telling people you need a different way of life. It's not working for you, what you're doing now. And it won't work. That may seem like strong medicine, but there are some persons who want to take it. They're thinking, what's going on? Does anyone have any answers? Economically, politically, environmentally? Are there any answers? So people become frustrated. I guess there are no answers. I might as well just enjoy my senses like everyone else. Can't miss out on those opportunities. Don't want to become old and gray without having a sufficient overdose of sensuality. So that becomes the overriding concern. Me and mine. As for the world, what can you do about it? It's going its own way. But we have the greatest gift to offer, purified intelligence. So that our intelligence can actually aid us in our mission in life. We have public things to share with the people, and we have private things to share amongst devotees. This is personalism. Personalism always has a public aspect and a private aspect. So in bhakti, there are things that we publicly share, and there are things that we only relish amongst devotees. Lord Chaitanya demonstrated this. He had his public pastimes, congregational chanting, as he wandered throughout South India. Whoever saw him became a pure devotee, and then that person would go away, and whoever saw that person would become a pure devotee. And this way, Lord Chaitanya set off a chain reaction throughout South India. But meanwhile, while he was touring South India, he wasn't simply dealing with human beings. Residents of other planets would come to see him disguised as human beings. The greatest demigods would come and see him disguised as human beings. So that's how Lord Chaitanya spread the Sankirtan movement all over the universe. He wasn't simply dealing with human beings. But publicly, he discussed knowledge of Bhagavad Gita and conducted Harinam Sankirtan. Privately, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu discussed the intimate glories of Krishna and expressed his feelings of acute separation. So you find both in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, the private and the public. That's personalism. Just like about your own life, as insignificant as you think you may be, you have a public aspect and a private aspect. So, Krishna is the Supreme Person, Purushottama, and he has public and private aspect of his life. So our intelligence is meant for understanding Krishna in truth. and then helping others to understand Krishna. We have to be patient because people have no intelligence. Their intelligence is totally on the material platform. But they are spirit soul, and that means that hearing about Krishna, engaging in devotional service, is their natural condition. So we're on the side of what is natural. Although it seems the opposite. We're offering persons something that is so foreign and so different. But no. We have the spiritual nature on our side. We are truly organic. Truly holistic. We're offering what is natural for the spirit soul. So let us continue to develop spiritual intelligence. We need wise persons who understand the Shastra and can explain it to others, teach it to others, and distribute it to others. And wise persons show their knowledge in action. Therefore, a community of wise bhakti yogis is so important, because in such a wise community, you're showing the philosophy in action. Otherwise, people think, even when they read the books, oh, it's very nice, but who can live like that? That's what they mean. Maybe they think, maybe when I get completely fried out and exhausted, then I'll consider such an option. But they need to see a thriving bhakti community with all types in the community. And then they become attracted. I see it's possible. So you have a great mission at hand here in Wales. People are very friendly here. So give them the supreme friend. And by your making those efforts, Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda will bless you with intimate knowledge of Krishna. You're busy giving Krishna to everyone. Why shouldn't Krishna give himself to you? But Krishna wants to see how much you'll try to please his senses. So therefore we have the greatest opportunity.